All right, Avery says we're good to go.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Chair Kite, and I would like to welcome you to the April 13th, 2022 Historic Resources Commission meeting. The HRC is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by North Carolina general statutes, the City of Asheville's Unified Development Ordinance, and Buncombe County Ordinance. We are authorized to hear requests for certificates of appropriateness for alterations, demolitions, new construction, and other work within historic districts, or for the alteration and demolition of historic landmarks, and other duties, including preliminary review of subdivisions as specified in the ordinances for the HRC. Since we are meeting virtually, please note that members of the public can watch the live stream on the city's YouTube channel and or participate by phone by calling 855-925-2801 and entering code 9384. For those wishing to give public comment during an agenda item, please call in and press *3 to enter the caller queue. I will now ask commission members to introduce themselves and to say a sentence or two about their background or experience as it relates to serving on the commission. Vice Chair Sprang.
Hello, I'm Emily Sprang. I've got a master's degree in historic preservation, and I work as a designer for custom homes.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Hey, good afternoon. I have a background in archaeology and extensive experience using historic preservation for reviewing Historic Preservation Act Section 106 projects and restoring houses.
Commissioner Hornaday. Well, I think you're muted. Okay, we're going to skip and come back to Will. Commissioner Oliva.
Hi, I'm Sue Oliva. I have a PhD in American history and have worked in the field of preservation.
Commissioner Vaughn.
My name is James Vaughn. I have a master's in public administration, and I have experience in getting projects on the National Register of the Historic Registry, including the South Asheville Cemetery, where I'm a board member.
Okay. And tonight we are going to welcome Shelley Jackson Buffington. This is her first commission meeting with us. Shelley, if you wouldn't mind saying hello.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here. Hi, everyone. I live in North Asheville with my husband. I lived in and around Asheville off and on throughout my adult life and finally made the full-time move back here a year ago. And I've always just loved Asheville, so I'm happy to serve in this way. I have a bachelor's in history and an MBA focusing on nonprofit management and museum management. And I have a background in working in historic house museums. And I'm currently the CEO and founder of a branding agency. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Shelley. We're glad to have you. And I am Emily Kite. I'm a local architect here in Asheville. We are going to consider the minutes from our March meeting of the HRC. The meeting minutes include findings of fact and conclusions of law. Are there any corrections to note? Is there a motion to approve?
I put forth a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Sprang.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazaris.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington.
Aye.
And myself, aye as well. That motion carries. Did I get everybody? My list was a little scrambled, so I apologize for that if I hopefully did not miss anyone. Okay. We're going to begin the evidentiary hearings for the items that are listed on our agenda. As a quasi-judicial proceeding, the HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in the guidelines and the standards of the specific historic district for that application. The HRC must make its decision upon competent, material, and substantial evidence to determine the facts of the hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the facts. The commissioners, in voting for an item, will not have a fixed opinion that's not susceptible to change, will not have a conflict of interest, and will not have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. The following are the rules for speaking. This meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to interested parties who wish to provide comment and testimony regarding the proposal. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference or opinion. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. At this time, I will administer the oath for all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony. Let's see who we've got today so far. Michael O'Brien, I see that you're here. And Joel Horn also, let's see. Jessica Larson.
I don't see the third applicant, so maybe we can just swear him in when we get to his item.
And Alex.
And Chair Kite, it's Janice. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm looking at the agenda and I see that there's a presentation by Brenda Mills. Is that going to happen after the quasi-judicial, or are you going to ask her to wait? Because we don't want to start the quasi-judicial if she's going to go ahead.
Thank you, Janice. That's a great question.
No, Brenda's going to go first before the public hearings, but I think we can go ahead and still get everyone sworn in. Correct.
I guess you can. I just don't want it to be confusing that when Brenda speaks, that is not a quasi-judicial procedure. Anyone could call in to comment if there's questions. You don't have to conduct it in the same way. So I just wanted to separate that out.
Right. It's not under the public hearing items on our
the
agenda.
HRC is just acting in your advisory, listening to some information. I just want that to be clear.
Okay. Do we want to wait and do the swearing in after that? It's fun either way. And also, does Shelley need to do anything to swear in, or has that been taken care of?
She's already gotten her oaths taken care of.
I personally think it's better to wait for the swearing in, and you can maybe do a review of your summary. Emily stating, now we will begin the public hearings under the quasi-judicial when we get to that point. Is that if all the applicants understand that?
That works.
They're going to need to wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, then I'm going to turn the floor over to Brenda Mills, if that's all right.
Good evening, everyone. Brenda Mills, Director of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And Alex asked me to come. She said that you had some questions around reparations. I was wondering if you may want to give me a little bit of feedback, and then I think I'll go over our process and where we're expecting to go for the future. Would that be okay?
Sure, I'll jump in here because I'm the one who raised this the most. My concern is making sure, as in talking to certain people involved with the South Asheville Cemetery, that historic Black resources are taken into consideration during the reparations process. Because someone once noted, why are we spending money to try and preserve the Vance Monument and not spending any money to preserve the South Asheville Cemetery? So my question has been, this commission weighed in to advise the city council, make clear to the city council our opinion about what was happening on Charlotte Street. And I've asked us repeatedly to weigh in with the city council about making sure that there are sufficient resources and considerations taken into preserving Black historic resources in Asheville. So others may have some more thoughts on that, but that's mostly me.
Anyone else? That's great. So is there, I guess, let me just go over what we've planned to do. First of all, we haven't started. So there's no, whether we've done this or that. We're just getting where we're seating the 25-member commission. As you may or may not know, the commission is made up of 15 neighborhood representatives. Our neighborhoods were able to provide their own representatives. City council did not vet those. They just ceremoniously approved those. They have a few of the neighborhoods do have some alternates just in case there are issues around people being not able to be there functionally, or, just in case. Those folks will attend but not vote. And then we have 5 impact focus areas: criminal justice, education, economic development, housing, and health and wellness. And in those areas, the city council picked 5 with 2 alternates, and the county commissioners picked 5 with 2 alternates. So you have a board of about 34, 35 people, with the alternates just being non-voting members but attending. We are at this point, the commission is getting ready to, we're working on a orientation meeting. I don't know if it'll be a 2-hour meetings or 1 4-hour meeting, but they have an onboarding guide. Our legal staff from the city and the county will be there to talk to them about around legal issues, open meeting laws, those types of things, serving on boards, things of that nature that would be necessary for them. We do have a statement of commitment. Our board members are being asked to be here focused on reparations. This is not to campaign for any office. If they do, they have to come off the board. They're not here for their own personal interests or the interests of an organization that they represent. They are here to represent Black Asheville and to make recommendations around that in terms of repair, things that we can do to repair in those 5 impact areas. The goal right now is to get those orientation done by around mid-May. Meetings will begin monthly. There will be a main meeting every month of the, I think I said 34, 35 members. And then there's focus area meetings will be separate. So the criminal justice group, and each of these folks that applied shared their interests in either one of those 5 areas. So they will be broken up around 5 to 6 members each, just depending on how it works out. All meetings will be open to the public. We're looking at recording the first 2 meetings of the orientation, just so the community has access to understanding what the committee, what their charge is and what they're able to do. Our legal will attend, our city staff, county staff will attend. And then we have a project manager, Tequity, with an assistant project manager, Salamanar Merritt, who is here locally. Our 5 facilitators are local folks here as well. The commission is charged with making recommendations to the city council in the short term. We're looking at that being around the end of summer, maybe the first of the fall, by the end of the year. Medium goals, I'm thinking short-term goals are things that we can start working on. Medium goals may need budget considerations, which will be the great timing because our budget planning will have begun. And then long-term recommendations will be made in the spring of next year, late spring of next year. There will be an evaluation and a final report, and all information and data gathered and shared with the commission will be capsulized in a document. From that point, I am not sure if we will keep some semblance of the board, if the board will remain for, a period of time. I'll know more of that as we get started. Is there something I can answer a question around? So, I'm sorry, let me do this. Sir, what is your name again? I'm sorry.
James Vaughn, ma'am.
James Vaughn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I thought they called you James Bond. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, my email address is 007 because I learned long ago to embrace it. So.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
Right.
But we chose those impact focus area folks because that's what they do. The folks in housing, economic development. So they're going to get a lot of presentations around that. I would suggest, Mr. Vaughn, that you send in an interest. There's an interest form on the project page for reparations in the city's engagement hub, and write out something about that history. We also are still going to be doing oral histories, video, verbal, those types of things. We want to gather all that information. I'm sure you guys have done a great job with that South Asheville that cemetery. We want to gather all of that information that needs to be brought to the forefront, because the goal is we're not a federal government, so we don't have the resources to do a significant amount. But what we can do is catalog what has happened and what the impacts have been, and what are the resources and the treasures that we still have that need to be preserved. And I know that that's a top interest of the Historic Resources Commission's mind at this time. Does that help kind of?
Yes, because there's been some confusion about where Black historic resources and the preservation of them, the YMIs of the world, and some of these churches and things, and some of these other areas of the city, and where they would fit into being considered in this process. And just the staff has weighed in saying, look, they have these 5 areas, and my concern was, were these areas considered and said, okay, we need to prioritize to this 5, or were they never taken into consideration when the council was weighing the 5? And if so, how did that sort of fall through the cracks, that the commission that exists for this purpose to advise the city council, provide policy recommendations, doesn't seem to have had much say in that?
Well, I know where you're coming from in terms of history. The goal at this point is to respond to Black Asheville. So Black Asheville will be weighing in, as well as other folks who have interests of information. So this is meant to impact Black Asheville in specific. So you have neighborhoods of which those historic resources live in those neighborhoods. Eagle Market Street is right down in the back now. They call themselves the Block Community Collaborative right now, right. Which includes, the church, Mount Zion Church, Eagle Market Street, the Eagle Marketplace, all of those entities and the businesses there. And so as the commission is working through that, that's some of the work that they will be needing to hear about. We want feedback. It's not just going to be the commission hearing presentations and making decisions. We see our boards being very much a part of those presentations. We see our communities and folks that want to give testimony can come into those commissions as well. Remember, this is an 18 to 24 month process. It's looking like maybe 1.5 years, but we'll just see where we are.
And by the way, that was Dwayne Barton who suggested that on behalf of the cemetery and in my role here at HRC should weigh in and start saying, hey, these are the kinds of projects that could
be. Dwayne's neighborhood is in there, so he can speak up for that. That would be great.
Absolutely.
We're not excluding anybody. I'm not sure why people are thinking that, but this is around Black Asheville. So if there are things that you feel like are have been and still continuing, or that we're not going to be able to preserve, because city and county is still talking about YMI, right. And all of the types of things that are going on around that. And there are things we're legally able to do, the things we're legally not able to do and to fund. Right. But that's why we have our legal staff there, City of Asheville and Buncombe County. It would be great to have you come weigh in on some of that stuff as well. So we will find a place for all of that.
Terrific.
But we got a lot of meetings going on, so I think there will be a place for all of that.
Absolutely appreciate that, ma'am. And I was told that really, obviously, this kind of thing should be coming from, like Black members of the community, Black members of the commission. Unfortunately, there aren't any. So I feel like I, have a responsibility to carry water from the people from my board, my organization, to come and try and speak, and speak up whenever I can and be an ally. So.
Well, I do. Actually, our African American Heritage Commission, a lot of our commissions have thoughts around a lot of this. So they will all be a part. Sure. We're not just picking the ones that have African Americans, we're picking all of them, right? Because each of you touch community and neighborhood in some way, in some fashion. So don't feel like you're an outlier. You're definitely an inlier. And you have I'm very impressed with all the expertise. I know Will Hornaday takes great pictures because he took a picture of me for the preservation calendar. But I've always had respect for this board and for the things that you bring to the table. I am working with the African American Heritage Commission. We are looking at a retreat for next month. So I will be talking to Alex around coming to talk about Historic Resources Commission and what you do and how you may be able to collaborate with that board in particular, because they still have funding around doing some work, African American culture or art, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so great. We very much see you as partners in this.
Great. I appreciate you and your time. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I had to stay at home today because I'm coming from the dentist and they called and said, we're coming to dig up your backyard to expand your patio. And I'm like, okay, come on. So I've been here today. But I'm, at any time, if you would like for me to come back, answer any questions, give you an update, please feel free to call on me. Alex knows my number and she knows how to reach me. She's a great person. And I'll be glad to come at any point in time.
Do you know where to find you?
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming today, Brenda.
You are welcome. I'm sorry to shove off, but I'm getting ready for vacation. I have a few things I need to do before the business is closed today, but have a great meeting. I wish you all the best and enjoy your Easter weekend, long Easter weekend.
Thank you. Happy vacation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to begin the evidentiary hearings. No, we didn't do that a minute ago. We're going to do that now. I appreciate Brenda sharing that information and update for the group. I'm going to go back through our public hearing kind of format. As a quasi-judicial proceeding, the HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in the guidelines and standards of the specific historic districts for that application. The HRC must make its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence to determine the facts of the hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the facts. Commissioners in voting for an item will not have a fixed opinion that isn't susceptible to change, will not have a conflict of interest, will not have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. The rules for public speaking are as follows. The meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to interested parties who wish to provide comment or testimony regarding the proposal. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference or opinion. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. At this time, I will administer the oath for all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony. And I think we took a bit of a roll call. I think Johnny Cusera has joined us in the meantime, so we can do everybody, I think, all at once. I am going to read the oath, and then I will call you each individually by name to affirm for us, if that is okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the information you present during the hearing for certificate of appropriateness or preliminary subdivision approval before the Historic Resources Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Michael O'Brien.
I do affirm.
Joel Horn.
I do.
Jessica Larson.
I do.
Johnny Cusera.
I do.
Okay. Alex Cole.
I do.
Have I missed anybody?
Nope, that's everybody.
All right, that's good. We're going to start with our first public hearing item, which is new business, local landmark, which is the Young Men's Institute at 39 South Market Street. Alex, we'll start with your staff report.
All right, thank you, Chair Kite. So I added some photos to the folder today just to help clarify, but hopefully everyone here is familiar with the YMI, which is definitely one of our historic treasures for sure. So just some photos of this is the intersection of Eagle and Market Street, kind of the two front facades of the building. You'll see the main entry into the kind of the internal workings of this building. There's commercial spaces along here where you see all the glass, and then on the right-hand side over here too. This arched doorway is where most folks enter into the space for the various programming that's offered in this building. There's currently an awning over the door. The only change here will be that the awning will be cleaned, and then they want to raise the awning up to be below the sill of the window above, so that they can expose this arched window that's below, while still giving some coverage to the entryway there. And then they'll also be replacing a light fixture here. We don't know, the architect doesn't know yet what the plan is for the proposed light fixtures, so that's listed as an item that we'll need to review down the road as a condition. The bulk of the work that's included in the CA request is on the rear of the building. It's a little bit hard to get a great shot of this building from the back because you kind of can't capture the whole elevation. So they've just put a few photos in here. This is looking at the back of where Penny Cup is. There's an existing fire escape stair there. Behind this hedgerow, there's also a metal railing along some steps that go down to the basement level. And here's kind of a shot of that looking towards Eagle Street. Just some additional context photos. Part of the application is to fill in a couple of light wells on the back of the building where water intrusion is occurring. One thing I did want to note to the commission that just to kind of open this up for your thoughts on it is my thought on infilling the light wells might be that using a darker color brick might be a good idea. That way you can clearly understand that it was historically an opening. They could also be restored at some point should that be wanted by anyone. So that's just a representative photo of one of the window wells. And then the image on the right is an existing entryway, and that is just to kind of lead us into the discussion on the major change to the rear elevation is the addition of this fire escape on the back. And this actually was approved by the commission back in the 1980s, but was never built. And I took a picture. It's kind of hard to see from the renderings unless you're zooming in pretty closely, but I took a picture. Let me pull it up really quickly. You can kind of see in the next slide too the configuration of the fire escape. It's set out a little away from the building elevation. Initially, I kind of thought that it would be better if it were more simplified and not kind of in any way like decorative at all. But after seeing that it was approved previously, I kind of think it's okay. And then I also, like, you can kind of see, here's the photo I was describing. Sorry, the picture's kind of blurry, but you can see that when the other fire escape was built, that it also had this kind of these decorative brackets underneath it. So I'm not noting any concerns with the fire escape, and it will meet the door here at the bottom, which is kind of beyond that wooden enclosure there at the end. Also included in here are existing and proposed site plans. At this stage in the game, and I'll let Michael speak more to this, but obviously sometimes with commercial projects or new construction projects, there's some unknowns in terms of what's going to happen once contracting begins with the site. So there is proposed here, there along this side of this is the back of the building, where that little kind of like little bridge between the two buildings is along Eagle Street. There's a section of brick paving in there that kind of fills up that little breezeway and then comes along the side of the building. My understanding is that they do need to put in a ramp here for accessibility. And at this point, they don't know what the exact details or slope of that will need to be. And it may require removing that existing set of steps and constructing a little landing there. But that is a little bit of an unknown at this point. I also pointed out that they'll be pretty tight to get all of these. They're proposing to replace all of the mechanical units that you can see down in the south end of the property. And I think it's pretty tight back there. If you visited the site, you could see that even with the 6 units, it's a pretty small space. So I think those are the point being, these are all things that we could iron out at staff level if there's anything that needs to change once they get into the project. I let Michael know that he could just communicate with us as things move along, and then we could gauge whether or not we needed to require a minor work amendment, or if there's something more substantial that then we would of course bring back to the commission. So I've just kind of noted a couple of outstanding things: the mortar specifications for any repairs to the brick, the light fixture specifications, a brick sample for infilling the window wells, and just the confirming on the mechanical and screening information for those new units. And so that's all I have. But happy to answer questions or go back over anything if needed.
Alex, can I make one quick correction?
Yes, of course.
Just for information, that light well that you showed is actually not one of the ones that we're filling in. The 2 that we're filling in are totally below ground and you can't even see them. And one is actually the window's already fallen out from rot, and the other is just about ready to. But that one that you showed that you can actually see, we would like to take that one out because that's actually a replacement window that was put in at some point. But you seem to be reluctant to let us do that. So if you want to, we'd be glad to take that one out. But
well, it had been so long since we met on site, I couldn't remember
I figured
which wells we were talking about. So I guess scratch what I said about that particular window well, unless you want to propose that, Michael, to the commission, which you can certainly do.
Well, if you want me to do it now, I'll be glad to. If you want, we can handle that on site later on as things develop.
Alex, did you have any concerns with the tree, the street tree for view blockage or anything on the front, or is that a city requirement?
It's a city requirement.
Yeah, that's only come up one time when we were reviewing the S&W and their outdoor dining, and the only reason why we recommended that they not put street trees in front of that building is because the whole way that Ellington designed that building was that it was, highly visible at the end of Haywood Street. So I don't have any concerns about planting trees in front of this building, and it's not like they're going to get very big either. I don't think that the tree wells on that side of the street can be very big. Am I wrong, Michael?
No, we're only putting in one, and it's on Eagle Street.
Okay.
And that is a requirement, but it's very small. There's hardly any room for a tree there. They talked about putting a service berry there, but I don't think we've even got room for that. It's whatever we put there is probably going to get in the way of the sidewalk, but it is a requirement. So it'll be as small as we can get it.
Commissioners, are there any other questions for Alex? Michael or Joel, is there other information that we've not yet heard that we should talk about? Michael, you mentioned maybe wanting to amend the application to address this window well that's on the screen currently.
Yeah, that particular window is a window that was added sometime in the past. It's an aluminum window. It has nothing to do with the rest of the building. I'm sure it was not brought in front of y'all for approval. And it's actually into an area where we're going to close it off because of water infiltration there. And they're going to use that as a storage area for their fine art. So we're just going to close this area off. The window is going to be pretty useless. we would love to fill it in so we have that much less water infiltration. And again, it's a poor addition that was done at some point.
Was it, you think it was an existing opening that's just got a replacement window in it, or they've created
Definitely.
the opening altogether?
No, it's an existing opening and they just replaced the window, probably rotted like some of the others that are getting water, and they just replaced it with a metal window.
Commissioners, questions for the applicant? Michael, typically we would, those kinds of changes we can make in the meeting as an amendment to the application that you've submitted. I think, Commission, that might be a place for us to have some conversation around. Sounds like this, the other window wells are not visible from anywhere and maybe don't have as much impact as the removal of this or the infilling of this opening.
Alex, could you go to the, looks like slide 7, where that's shown which window well this is?
It is, I believe it's this one. It's right, Michael, isn't it the one that's right immediately adjacent to the stair that goes down to the basement?
I don't see where you're pointing to, but it is.
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. The one that down here that's like just to the right of the railing where the stair is, it goes down to the basement.
Let's see. Yes, it's one of those two there, if there's two, but it is right there. Yes.
Let's see if we can. No, can't see it on that angle.
It's if you go back to that picture before, it's right before that wooden screen. You can't see it because of the umbrella there, but it's right around in there.
I mean, I do not recall our conversation on site, Michael, since it's been so long, but I don't have any concerns about filling in that opening, because I feel like if we're trying to protect the building and the water is coming in, then obviously that's not good. And like I said, the way the Secretary of the Interior standards are written is that, changes are fine. Also, in being able to, return something or restore something, restoring the openings could always occur in the future should that be, desired by whomever. So I don't have any, I think it's good for the building to protect it from water intrusion. So, but I think too, just to go back to what I was saying about the color of the brick, I think that would also too, like choosing a darker brick than what's there will help, illustrate that it is still an opening.
I would certainly support that. And leaving the arched, leaving all of that sort of intact and filling in.
Yeah, I would suggest that we'll probably inset the brick slightly so it's clear that arch is there.
Yeah.
And when you say darker, Alex, do you have color in mind, or you want us to propose something to you in the future?
Yeah, I don't have any brick colors in mind. Would be up to you guys to submit a sample.
Alex has been real good about working with us, and she's hopefully going to continue to work with us that well, because it's going to take a little fine tuning on this back here.
Yeah.
It's an interesting site. I know you guys are working with some funky configuration and site constraints, so we'll work it all out. And at least it's all behind the building. At least we're not talking about some other area that was highly visible.
Yeah, we would likely go look at the brick and probably try to find something that in the color family of some of the darker brick that you see in spots on the building.
That makes sense. Did we do public comment yet?
We'll do that right now. We will open the floor for public comment.
Chair, we do not have any callers.
And we will close the floor for public comment. So we need to, I think, Michael, have you requesting a formal amendment to your application to include that window if you want. And then absent other conversation or comments from commissioners, we would be ready for a motion.
I would like to request that we amend the proposal to include filling in this window well that's shown in the presentation with a contrasting brick of a darker color.
Okay. Commissioners, other comments or concerns about the application?
I've got one question. I was just wanting to clarify. I think it was mentioned that the awning was going to be moved. I would just like a little bit more information on that as to like, will it be the exact same? Will it look different? Change in size at all?
It's the exact
No,
same awning. I'm sorry, Alex.
Yes, that's okay. The same awning, it's just being cleaned, and then they're going to shift it upwards so that it's behind the window or behind, below. Here, let me go to this other photo. So the top of the awning is going to be set below the windowsill of the double hung window above, just so that they can get, kind of expose the opening a little bit more. It's such a pretty arched doorway, but right now it's obviously being covered up by the.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. That clarifies it for me.
Sure.
And if nobody else has questions, I could make a motion.
Okay.
Sound good? All right. Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and project description, 3 pages, Exhibit B, survey and site plan, 2 pages, Exhibit C, plans and drawings, 10 pages, Exhibit D, approved zoning plans, 8 pages, Exhibit E, photos of subject property, 8 pages, Exhibit F, owner's affidavit, Exhibit G, landmark designation ordinance, 2 pages, Exhibit H, National Register nomination form, 9 pages, Exhibit I, revised site plan, received April 8th, 2022, Exhibit J, additional photos, 3 pages, received April 8th, 2022, Exhibit K, mechanical unit plan and dimensions, 2 pages, received April 8th, 2022, Exhibit L, additional photos, 8 pages, taken by staff April 13th, 2022. And the commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except, I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to clean existing awning above entrance on Market Street and relocate awning to directly below second-story window. Replace existing non-original light fixture beneath awning. Repaint all window sashes in dark green color matching existing. Remove vegetation from brick exterior and restore brick and repoint with new mortar matching existing in composition, texture, color, and dimension. Replace existing asphalt shingle roof with new GAF Timberline asphalt shingle roof in hickory color. Remove 3 existing basement level windows on rear elevation and infill light wells with darker color brick. Remove 2 existing metal doors at basement level of rear elevation. Widen door openings from 32 inches to 36 inches and install new metal doors. Install 6-foot 3-inch by 4-foot wide and 20-foot 9-inch by 4-foot wide black canvas awnings and new light fixtures over existing basement stairs. Construct new 3-story painted steel fire escape on rear elevation. Construct new 48-inch wide concrete sidewalk connecting from Market Street elevation to entrance for ADA compliance. Construct new concrete pad at base of existing stairway on rear elevation. construct 48-inch wide permeable aggregate walkway from Market Street elevation along the eastern property boundary, connecting to 2 existing entrances on rear elevation for ADA compliance. Replace 6 existing mechanical units adjacent to southeast building corner with 9 new units of varying sizes and same location, and screened with TBD, and 2 new units adjacent to basement stair at rear elevation screened with TBD. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standards for masonry, roofs, mechanical systems, site, setting, health, safety, foundation, and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, masonry will be cleaned using the gentlest means possible. Any new mortar will match existing in composition, color, dimension, and texture. B, roof color will be asphalt shingle and similar in color to existing. C, new walkways and mechanical systems will be located to the rear of the building and screened by existing vegetation. D, new fire escape is compatible with the building and will be inconspicuously located on the rear elevation. E, light wells being filled are on the rear elevation and they can be restored. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the YMI building.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, we will vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington,
Aye.
myself, aye as well. That motion carries.
Based on the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions. Mortar specifications, light fixture specifications, brick sample, and mechanical unit screening information will be provided to staff for review and approval.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call again. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington,
Aye.
myself, aye as well. That motion also carries. And that concludes the certificate of appropriateness request for this project. And we're going to move on to the Montford Historic District at 295 Cumberland Avenue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the commission. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael and Joel. I'll follow up with you probably early next week.
Great. And thank you,
Very
Alex.
good.
Thanks. All right, next item. All right, so this is a 2-story vernacular house on Cumberland Avenue. Here's a picture of the front elevation to provide some context. All of the work is confined to the rear and side elevation. So I'm just going to walk us around to explain the parts of this application. So this is a photo of the rear. As you can see now, if you're looking at the photo and compared to the plans, there's an existing window and door on the first floor that are proposed to be modified. The door that's on the south elevation where my cursor is, that is also proposed for removal, and there will be some new windows on that side, as well as an egress window up in the attic level on the south elevation. And there is a new dormer proposed for the rear elevation of this house so that they can create a livable space in the attic level, hence the need for the egress window. So here are the existing and proposed elevation drawings. So you can see the window change down on the first floor, as well as replacing that existing pedestrian door with new French doors, and then also wrapping the roof, the little hip roof around to cover that entryway. When Jessica and I met, we talked about a little bit that I tend to think that the kind of the length of this dormer is a little bit awkward, and maybe there's an option to like shorten it from the sides and or perhaps make it into 2 dormers. But I don't philosophically oppose a dormer in this location, and it's really not going to be highly visible from anywhere. And this is just the side elevation looking at it. You can see here the change to the door that I mentioned on the bottom right hand corner. That will be removed, and then a new casement window matching those that are there will be installed. And then the casement window in the gable end is shown on the attic level. And then this is looking at the north elevation. Not much changing here, just removing a single window here, and then adding another window on the second floor there. So I've not noted any real concerns. We don't get applications for new dormers super frequently. I think maybe we've only had a handful in my time with the commission. But I don't necessarily think that this one is, I don't think it really alters the overall configuration of the roof form, in my opinion. So I'm not really noting any strong concerns about it, but happy to answer questions or pull up any additional info if I can do that for you all.
Hey, Alex, on slide 15, the third floor, the original window is coming out and being replaced with a new window of same?
I don't think so. I'll let Jessica speak to that. When we first met, there were showing egress windows on both ends, and I suggested that it would be better to not,
Okay.
the least amount of windows we can,
Sure.
modify, the better, obviously. So just having one, if that was allowable for code, would be better. And it's a pretty small space. So I think that maybe it's just a carryover from your previous drawing, Jessica.
Yeah, you're correct. That window is going to just be restored and kept as is.
Commissioners, other questions for Alex? Jessica, is there anything else that you'd like for the commission to consider?
No, that the dormer and the only thing that I would consider touching base about is that dormer right now is the slope is 3 and 12, so that the roof material will match the majority of the house. Our original design was at a 2 and 12, so that we can get a little bit more ceiling height in that attic space. But in order for, but unfortunately, we would have to change the roof material to a metal roof at that point. And our intention was to, like, the color of the metal roof would still match the existing asphalt shingle roof. And because it's so high up, we were hoping that that would be okay to introduce that new material to this house. But after talking with Alex in that that first meeting, she just thought that it would be better not to introduce any new roof material. So I just wanted to bring that up only to see if that is still an option to do a 2 and 12 roof and with a metal roof, because it would be much better, a much more, it would just help with the ceiling height in that space.
Yeah, I'll just add to the feedback that I gave Jessica was that the commission had not approved a mix of roofing materials on any historic houses in the past. That had not been considered historically appropriate because that didn't really happen on historic houses. So yeah, that was where my feedback came from.
Commissioners, before we take public comment, do you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll open the floor for public comment.
Chair, we have no callers.
Okay, we'll close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, other comments or questions or conversation?
I'd like to hear what commissioners are feeling about the length of that dormer window being somewhat continuous across the back of the structure. My instinct is that it would probably be unusual to see that type of thing, and probably more common to see 2 dormers of a regular size. I just wanted to see if anyone else had any opinions on that.
My instinct, Emily, is I tend to agree. I think the thing that I'm getting stuck on is the depth of the overhang of the roof in relation to where the actual dormer walls kind of stop. It feels, while it matches and seems to be consistent with the rest of the house, it looks a little bit out of whack for me, because we sort of want it to be a bit understated, I think. And I certainly think if we were on a different elevation of the house, my opinion about having smaller matching kind of symmetrical dormers might be stronger than it is on the back. And I think if the edges of those, the roof overhang was pulled in closer, maybe I would feel less like it was something is a little off about it. It just feels that little bit out of proportion for the kind of the height of the dormer and the, I don't know, too much around it or something for me.
That was my thought as well, is that something with the proportions doesn't seem quite right. I think it just looks very long.
Made longer, I think, because of the overhang, the depth of the overhang kind of on the ends of that. And maybe if that was pulled in, it might help it feel a little bit better. And that makes sense the way it's proposed in terms of how its usefulness on the inside of the building. And I do think it's going to be not particularly visible from any real strong vantage point. And I think certainly changing materials would not be consistent with what we've done in the past. And also I think it would not really be consistent with the style of this particular house. But in general, I don't know that I would make a recommendation that would break that dormer up necessarily, but would maybe just look at how the roof overhang relates to it.
Are you talking about the north-south overhang, the side overhang?
Yeah, like on the ends, like beyond where the corner of the dormers kind of stops. And I can tell by the drawing that it's matching the depth of the overhang of the existing house, but I wonder if pulling that in so it's not as deep helps kind of create a better hierarchy between the way that the massing of the main house and the roof reads with that dormer, that it makes it a little bit more kind of diminutive in relation to the main massing of the house if it's not quite as deep on the ends there. And I guess I can go back and look at the side elevations to see sort of how much it overhangs in front of those windows, but it doesn't look, yeah, I mean that all around you would probably match it, how it overhangs in front of the windows. Might get a better opportunity for some daylighting in there too if there's not quite as deep an overhang, but
that's an easy change.
Yeah. Other comments, commissioners?
I agree that keeping the roof material consistent is important. So just putting another vote in for that point of view. And then as far as anything else with the dormer, just having it in that back elevation and tucked way up high. I mean, I feel comfortable with it the way it is, but improvements would be warranted too. So, I mean, I'm comfortable with it is what I'm saying.
So is there any consensus around making those small modifications to shorten the roof overhang on the sides and along the main part of the dormer, and good with staff approval on that?
I would certainly be comfortable with staff approval, just a revised elevation as a condition.
Okay, yeah, because obviously it's pretty easy to visualize with that, those small changes, so no issue on my end with that.
I think the other small modifications proposed all look fine to me. Just the, on the, is it this, the rear elevation, the window change, and the double door addition. I don't see any issues with those.
Was there not room for that middle first floor window to have that sort of a 60-40 window with a kind of unique that matches the other side of now French doors on the right? Was there not room to accommodate that unique window that you see on the left by the umbrella?
Does that look original to you? I would think that was all one opening at some point. Am I wrong, Jessica?
It's actually two windows in there. It's like the one that I want to save is the bigger one, and that's what I'm shifting over into the powder room. And the little sliver window, it just looks like it's kind of placed in there. There's a wall that's in between those two windows right now. So
that's what I guess I was saying was, did it look like to you that was one opening originally?
I think it was one opening.
Does it match doesn't it match the window on the right of the patio door?
No, that to the right of the patio door, that was those were new windows.
Side light.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, that's that. But they're all going to the basement, the windows that are coming out.
We'll save all the windows, yes.
Other comments, commissioners? Do we need a formal amendment for the roof overhangs, or we just can as a condition?
I think we'll just make it a condition.
Okay.
Well, then,
are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make the motion. Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and project description, 4 pages, Exhibit B, floor plans and elevation drawings, 6 pages, Exhibit C, photos of subject property, 5 pages, Exhibit D, door and window specifications, 8 pages, Exhibit E, paint colors, 2 pages, Exhibit F, owner's affidavit, Exhibit G. Is there an Exhibit G?
No.
And the commission's actual inspection and review of subject property by all members except. I move that this commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. One, that the application is to replace existing 6/1 double hung window and gable end on south elevation with 2 new multi-light wood SDL awning windows for egress. Remove 1 multi-light door on south elevation and install 1 8-light SDL casement window. Remove portion of wood landing from southwest building corner. Remove 1 existing 6/1 double hung window on first floor of north elevation. Install 1 new 6-light SDL wood casement window on second story of north elevation. Construct new shed dormer with 4 wood multi-light SDL casement windows and siding and roofing matching existing on rear facing portion of roof. Relocate 1 existing 4/1 double hung window on first floor of rear elevation and construct shed roof overhang with asphalt shingles matching existing. Replace 1 existing multi-light door on first floor of rear elevation with new multi-light wood French doors. Replace existing landing with new landing in same location and dimensions and new landing in same location and dimensions and extend roof covering over new doors. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. Number 2, that the standards for roofs found on pages 74 to 75 and windows and doors on pages 84 to 85 of the Montfort Historic District Design Review Standards adopted on April 14th, 2010 and amended December 9th, 2019 were used to evaluate this request. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, new dormer will be on rear-facing portion of roof and will not substantially alter the overall roof form. B, new siding and roofing materials will match existing. C, existing windows being removed will be retained and preserved on site. D, window and door openings to be modified are on non-character defining elevations of the building. E, new windows and doors will be wood and compatible with the overall design of the building. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montfort Historic District.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions. 1, revised elevation drawings will be submitted for staff review and approval. 2, original window being removed will be preserved and retained on site.
Second, Lazarus.
Okay, vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring.
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday.
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva.
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn.
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington.
Aye.
Myself, aye as well. That motion carries. And that concludes our hearing for this application.
Thank you, Jessica. I'll follow up with you next week.
That sounds great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jessica. Moving to the next item on our agenda is also in Montfort Historic District at 144 Flint Street. Alex, we'll start with your report.
Okay, so some of you might recall that we reviewed an application recently at this property to modify a little bump out on the rear elevation. So, but just to give some context, this is the front elevation of the house. It's on the corner of Flint and, ooh, I'm gonna forget what the cross street is there. It's on a corner. So this application is pretty straightforward. This is the north elevation of the house, or the north, this is sort of the northwest corner. And I'll show some different photos, or photos from different angles in a second, so you can get a better sense of where this is. But so if you're looking at the house from the back the back corner of it, there are these 2 existing dormers, and then they're proposing to add a 3rd dormer next to it that would match the other 2. There's also part of the application is to, this is the little bump out on the rear. They're proposing to replace these 3 windows, which are not original to the structure, as well as the door, which is not original. So I did get the window specs today, and those are included in your packet, and they are proposed to be, there are a couple of different ones that we were looking at, but they are 3/1 wood windows that are being proposed in those existing openings. No changes to any of the openings there. So to go back to the dormer, this is looking at the side elevation where the dormer is proposed. Here's a couple more images so you can kind of see. This is the top left photo is a photo I took today looking at it from the sidewalk, and this is kind of looking at it from directly below it. If you look at the standards for roofs, it does say, let me bring up the specific standard, because I could understand where there might be some differing interpretations on this, and that's certainly up to the commission. I didn't note any concerns because it is my thought that this dormer would be tucked towards the rear of the house. It's not substantially altering the whole configuration of the roof. But the way the standards read, it says any changes to the configuration of any existing roof must be confined to the rear of the house and shall not be visible from any primary public right-of-way. Like I said, I'm standing on the sidewalk in the photo that I took today. So I would imagine that there could be the interpretation that it's not appropriate to modify the roof in that area. But again, I'm more so questioning the change in configuration, if you will, in my mind speaks more towards the overall roof form being reconfigured. And I don't think I really have a concern about adding a dormer, especially since there are 2 existing dormers, then this would match the others. So again, not noted any concerns. We have the outstanding information that I listed in my staff report. We have all of that in the file, so we're good to go on those items. So happy to answer questions or pull anything else out of the guidelines if needed. If you all want me to read any, it doesn't really go into any other detail except for to say retain and preserve roof lines that contribute to the overall character and form of a building, including the roof shape, pitch, line, overhang, and functional or decorative features. And I don't think that the new dormer interferes with that, with the overall roof being preserved and retained.
Any questions for Alex?
Alex, I wasn't clear on what was the window in the proposed dormer.
Oh, sorry. They're proposing 4-light casement windows to match what's in this front. This is the dormer closest to the front of the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're proposing to match those casement windows.
Great, thanks.
Other questions for Alex? Johnny, is there any other information that you'd like to add following Alex's report?
No, I mean, I just think, my interpretation of the commission, why it's formed is to, preserve the neighborhood, to make it, have a similar characteristic. And I believe this house needs help. It needs help and to get it there. And I think the changes that we're proposing are going to help it further of being more aligned and symmetrical, and just the aesthetics of, I feel the changes are all for the good in terms of, you have these 2 dormers, then you have like this flat roof, and it's just calling for it. And I didn't even propose it. She's like, I always wanted the dormer here just for headroom. And I'm like, I go outside and look at it and I'm like, well, that just makes perfect sense. Of course, it's up to if we can do it or not. And the same with the windows in the door. You saw the the quality of them. This is her husband that wants to move in there, and kind of his room until, the time, I guess you could say. And so anything that we can do to help that, the characteristics, the aesthetics, I just think it's all for the good, but that's obviously my opinion.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay, we're gonna briefly open the floor for public comment,
Chair, we have no callers.
and we'll close the floor for public comment. Commissioners, other feedback or conversation? I don't, Alex, I tend to align with your feedback on the dormers. I don't see a particular concern with the dormer as it relates to the standards. Certainly creates a nice rhythm back there to have it on that elevation of the house.
Yeah, I find it interesting looking at the elevation that it almost looks like a dormer is missing when you look at the first drawing. But as far as Alex was saying about the guidelines referring to the overall character, overall plane, I also don't think that that's going to be a substantial change to the shape of the original roof. So I have no problem with the dormer going in.
I echo Vice Chair Spring's comments on the dormer not having a huge impact on the overall building, and it provides more livability for the home, and I think it works well.
I concur. It kind of does look like it should have been there in the first place.
We ready for a motion?
Somebody else want to do it this time? Shall we nominate the newbie?
I take that as a no. I think you're up.
Oh, no, Emily, I got it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yep. Madam Chair, based upon the evidence presented to this commission, including Exhibit A, application and project description, 3 pages. Exhibit B, elevation drawings, 4 pages. Exhibit C, photos of subject property, 3 pages. Exhibit D, dormer rendering. Exhibit E, window and door specifications, 15 pages. Exhibit F, owner's affidavit. Exhibit G, revised elevation drawings, 2 pages, received April 13th, 2022. Exhibit H, additional photo, received April 13th, 2022. Exhibit I, additional photo taken by staff, April 13th, 2022. Exhibit J, email with photos, 4 pages, received April 13th, 2022. Exhibit K, revised window and door specifications, received April 13th, Exhibit 2022. And the Commission's actual inspection review of subject property by all members, except I move that this Commission approve the certificate of appropriateness based on the following. 1, that the application is to construct new gable dormer with 4 light wood SDL casement windows on north-facing portion of roof. Dimensions, design, and materials to match existing dormers. Replace 1 existing non-original multi-light door on north elevation with new pillow wood multi-light door. Replace non-original 2/2 windows on rear elevation with new pillow 3/1 wood SDL awning windows. All work will be in accordance with attached drawings and plans. All permits, variances, or approvals as required by law must be obtained before work may commence. 2, that the standard for roofs found on pages 74 was that through another 74?
Through 75, sorry, just a typo.
75. That's cool. And windows and doors on pages 84 to 85 of the Montfort Historic District Design Review Standards, adopted April 14th, 2010, and amended December 19th, 2019, were used to evaluate this request. Oh, hold on a second. I lost my place. There we go. 3, this application does meet the design standards for the following reasons. A, new dormer will be towards the rear of the building and will not substantially alter the overall roof form. B, new siding and roofing materials will match existing. C, doors and windows being replaced are not original to the building. D, new doors and windows will be wood incompatible with the overall design of the building. 4, that the action and improvements proposed in the application before us for a certificate of appropriateness are congruous with the special historic character of the Montfort Historic District.
Second, Hornaday.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington,
Aye.
myself, aye as well. That motion carries.
Based upon the foregoing findings and for the reasons set forth therein, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with no conditions, correct? Alex?
Correct.
Second.
Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazarus,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington,
Aye.
myself, aye as well. That motion also carries. And that is the last of our public hearings on the agenda for today.
Thanks, Johnny. I'll follow up with you next week.
Okay. Thank you very much for your help.
Thanks, Johnny.
Feel like I'm getting spoiled by these shorter meetings. Just to prepare you, May agenda is looking a little different. It's like going back into our normal routine of having lots
We have to bring snacks, so we
yeah. By the way, everyone, we are meeting in person next month before I forget to mention that. So
yeah.
I'll send out a note to all of you with some details when we get a little closer to the meeting, because I know a lot of you have not come to our building to meet in person before, or several of you maybe. So
a refresher on parking would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The city's not offering parking anymore to volunteers, but I know maybe I shouldn't say this, but there is parking, like our employee parking is near our building, and it starts opening to the public at 5. So I imagine if you're like here at 4, like that's not a terrible place to park, but there's plenty of street parking around our building. And there's also the closest deck is the one across from the county courthouse building on College Street. So, but again, I'll send out some more info for all of you related to meeting space, parking, all of those things when we get a little closer to the May meeting. So, so yeah, we just have a couple of items to get through for other business. Executive committee nominations. The executive committee was Sue and I guess Shannon. Was Shannon on the meeting with us? It was Sue. It was you and Shannon and
yeah.
And was it Stephanie? No, Sarah. Was it Sarah or Stephanie? Sarah. It was Sarah, I believe.
Yeah.
And neither of them are here today. So I'll just kind of let you, if you want to, just say that, you know, the slate of officers that was put forth to the group.
Yes, we are very pleased to keep our fabulous officers in place. Correct?
Yeah, I think that was the plan, was to nominate the same slate of officers for and just a FYI to everyone, we do this in the spring because the city's fiscal year starts over July 1. So we kind of do this, and that's when the new slate of officers will go into place. Anyone can nominate themselves from the floor today during the meeting, so don't be shy. Don't feel like if you want to step up or whatever, you're more than welcome to. The executive committee has a variety of roles, but we haven't been able to meet for the past couple of years, so it's been like not really a lot of activity around executive committee, but normally we meet once a month to kind of go to talk through the upcoming agenda as well as any other special projects we have going on. So. And so our process is then, if you all are comfortable with the same slate of officers, then you guys would just make a vote to approve the slate of officers, excuse me.
I vote that we approve the current slate of officers to carry on. Is that was correct? Or
I think you have to make a motion and
I'd
then
like to
someone
make a
seconds.
motion. I'd like to
And you
make
might want to state who the officers are, because I'm not seeing anything written or, for the public, just to know who is the current slate. Name
Sure.
it.
It's Emily Kite, chair, Emily Spring, vice chair, Gail Lazares, second vice chair, and Will Hornaday, third vice chair.
Do we need a second?
Can't hurt.
Second.
And we need to vote, same as always.
Yes.
Vice Chair Spring,
Aye.
Commissioner Lazares,
Aye.
Commissioner Hornaday,
Aye.
Commissioner Oliva,
Aye.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Aye.
Commissioner Buffington,
Aye.
myself, aye. Sounds like we're in business.
Wonderful, thank you. Then our other business item is the annual HRC award. There were two nominees that were put forth by Commissioner Vaughn and Commissioner Hornaday, one being Ann Chesky-Smith, who is the director of the Western North Carolina Heritage Association. And there is some information about, I included basically the info that both Commissioner Vaughn and Commissioner Hornaday sent to me in your commissioner packet. But this is basically the summary for Ann Chesky-Smith. She's also the executive director of the Swananoa Valley Museum and History Center, and has inspired interest in many aspects of local history, much of little known, such as her book on the murder at Asheville's Battery Park Hotel, as well as others on Black Mountain and Black Mountain College. She also kept up virtual programming during the pandemic for WNCHA, as well as PSABC, which she did a short video presentation of her South Asheville Cemetery. And Commissioner Vaughn said, keeping us engaged when everything was shut down reminds me of the criteria for the HRC award for her 11 years of inspiring us to look deeper into Western North Carolina history. He would like to nominate her. So that's one person. And then Commissioner Hornaday also put forth I hope all of you had time to read through all of the info that was shared. But if you aren't familiar with the municipal golf course, commonly known as Muni, it's a city-owned property that was designed by Donald Ross and was completed in 1927. It is a National Register district. I don't know if it's like a National Register area, but there's originally the caddies were all African American and were not allowed to play on the course. It was integrated in 1954, and there was a group of golfers that created the Skyview Golf Association tournament to promote golf in the Black community and help players become professional golfers. And the first tournament was held in 1960. and continues to this day. So, so Will wanted to nominate the founders of the tournament and the caddies who were part of that history. So I did reach out to Will to see if he had any specific contacts for that group. So I don't personally, but I know you're more connected in the community than I am these days, Will. So I'll let you speak to that. I think the way we did it last year, we had a few different nominees last year too. I don't know if anybody else has anyone they want to throw in the hat, which is fine, obviously. I think what we did last year was we kind of just did a straw poll, if I recall correctly, or you guys, there's no set way we have to do this. Like if you all generally agree that you want to, support one or the other, that's all you have to do. There's no formal process to this.
Actually, last year, there was just one nominee. It was the two Georges from the cemetery.
Right.
Maybe it was the year before that I'm thinking of, because I think it was the year before, because it was when Ben Mitchell was still on the commission, and I think there were maybe 3 different nominations. So
clarification, Will, are you nominating the documentarian listed here, or are you listing the historical figures themselves?
The historic figures themselves.
Right. I'm just referencing the Bone Steel documentary.
And it was the 1960s that this took place?
Yeah, it was the first integrated golf course in the Southeast. Muni was. And then immediately following that, the clubhouse was burned out. And the city bravely did not close kept it open and kept it desegregated. And that's and the Black Caddies, if you watch that short documentary, it's pretty special. And I'm not pushing this over Anne, which I think is very worthy too. So if we'd like to talk about that some too, because there has been great programming and information coming out of Wencha since she took over there 2 or 3 years ago. But anyway.
I was just curious if we know of any of those original members that are still living to accept.
They are. Not all. And there's fewer every year.
Is Mr. Bacote still with us?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there really aren't, I shouldn't say there aren't rules here, but I guess theoretically you could give it to both both Anne and the other group. We've not ever had like a rule that has to go to one person. It just has always been done that way. But while we're changing, in the middle of changing everything over the last few years, why not change one other thing?
I like that idea very much.
It's a really hard choice, I think, because they're really 2 very strong nominations. If I had to pick, I would probably prioritize the golf course stuff, just because I think we could run out of time if we're not careful in it being an award that's relevant to folks that are still living, that have that history in their own experience. And so that would be the only thing tipping the scales on picking between one or the other. I certainly know Anne, and she's been great in my interactions with her and the work that she and I have done together in the past. And so I think that's certainly also a worthwhile nomination. And but
Are there,
it's hard to choose.
since I'm not familiar with the award, I have a question about Alex, when you suggested the potential of changing and having 2 awardees. I'm I'm interested in knowing, is there a categorization that would happen in that way? Is there like would Anne be taking an award that has to do with preserving and educating history presently, and then the folks from Muni and the founders and the golfers would be involved in looking back and reflecting on the past and acknowledging past history?
There's not, like, again, there's not a, it's not defined. Like, this award was created by the HRC many years ago, and the wording in the description just says it's given by the HRC each year to an individual or individuals in the community who by word or deed has kindled among the citizenry of Asheville and Buncombe County an appreciation for the history or historic resources of the area. So that's really the only, kind of metric, and there's no categories. Kind of like, I know how PSABC, they have categories for their awards. I guess we could potentially set it up that way in the future. But we can do it however the commission wants to, because it's your award or awards to give. And I think the other thing I was thinking through is, does it take away from one or the other if we give the award kind of to two entirely separate entities or people, where I know last year it was given to Mr. Taylor or Mr. Gibson, but they were obviously being recognized for the same work. So I don't know if that makes a difference to anyone, whether it makes it feel more special if it's just one group that are related to each other or one individual. That's really up to you guys.
Alex, is this the award that we recently renamed the champion award?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think there's probably something to be said for being that it's the champion award. It should be someone who is advocating historic preservation, preserving the past. It's my view that the golfers were more making history than preserving history. So it seems like it would be more appropriate just to the nature of the award to give it to Smith. What was the first name?
Anne.
Anne. But maybe there's another award that we would consider giving to someone who has made important history in Asheville in the past.
Well, I think I guess that's totally open to interpretation by all of you. This is, you're basically just celebrating local history by giving this award. And it says, by word or deed has kindled among the citizenry of Asheville and Buncombe County an appreciation for the history or historic resources, which I think that the folks associated with the golf course have, right? Because we appreciate that place and their contributions to the history of not only just their history of the golf course, but integration as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty remarkable that it was integrated in the 1950s, and that had to have been that I would think they really cared about the history of golf and all that stuff. Like, if you watch the documentary, it's got a lot of different facets to it, I guess. So I don't have it. That's really, again, it's up to you all kind of how you want to proceed or interpreting like who's might be, the best fit for receiving the award. So
I think Emily made some really good points, but as a historian, knowing what people went through in the South through integration, for them to take a brave stand like that, it would be nice to acknowledge them along with Anne. If we could do that, I would like to do that. I just think it's kind of an amazing, and the public should know that Asheville, integrated the first. That's important.
And significant to the rest of the country's history to some degree.
Well, if there are folks that are still living in this community that were integral to that significant time and that place, I think it's a missed opportunity to not recognize it. But I also, Shelley, I think you made a really interesting observation about the opportunity to really create different kinds of awards that we give, right? This notion of it there being a service award fits perfectly for people like Anne, who are dedicating their ongoing efforts and ongoing service to to stuff in this community, and not only just in the preservation end of protecting landmarks and buildings, but in her outreach and in her and bringing that information to the masses, and especially in a time. So I see them really distinctly in a way that could create its own space for both of those things to be recognized in at the same time, but in very different ways and for very unique reasons. So I think there's room for that. And I don't know that it means that we necessarily have to always fill 2 awards every year. I think it's one of those where we, there's this sort of unique kind of service award that happens when we find people like Anne who really demonstrate that and epitomize everything that might mean for us as a community kind of moving forward. But that these special moments that we find in our history get to be also, out in the world too, in their own special way. So I kind of like the idea of us creating a way to be able to do both.
I definitely agree that, I think, the story of the golf course is definitely deserving of an award. Just if it were a different branch of the same category, Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of facets to being a champion. I mean, if we're handing out Historic Champion Award, Historic Resource Champion, and I also feel that the award would not be diluted by giving 2 this year. I feel like we also need to keep it as simple as possible, kind of in the big picture, with we don't have to crystallize that it's this type or this type, but we can acknowledge that we do have these 2 amazing facets of Historic Resource Champion this year, and give 2 awards to each of them. And I think that would be awesome.
It's all in the wording, I think, right? The press release. They're very distinct.
So it sounds like you all are in agreement that both 2 awards this year. Okay. I need 2 volunteers to come to the Griffin Awards. So back up to before the pandemic, the HRC used to give the annual award at the Griffin Award event. Obviously that didn't happen during the pandemic. And then last year we had the very special event that South Asheville Cemetery Association hosted. And that was wonderful, but we don't, with the city, have capacity to do that kind of event every year. So I did reach out to PSABC folks, and they said they'd be more than happy to have us rejoin their event ceremony. So that will be it's May
26th, I think.
Okay, that's what I have on my calendar. So May 26th, and I believe it's at Douglas Ellington's house this year. So what we usually do for the event is whoever, it could just be one of you presenting if you want to, or if, James and Will, if you want to both come to present to your respective nominee or whatever, we cover the cost of your attending the event, or your ticket price or whatever. I don't know what that looks like this year. And then obviously you present the award on behalf of the commission to the awardees. So,
yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that, since sadly I had to miss last year's with the Mr. Gibson and Mr. Taylor. Plus, I have to say one of my other nominees is getting a Griffin Award. So, I just run around town and nominating people for awards.
Good for you, celebrating the hard work of.
I'm happy to be one of those people, and obviously, if Will wants to give his as well, by all means, I'm not looking to hog any spotlight here.
What was the date on the event again?
It's May 26th. I don't know the time
I think
details
it's a Tuesday, right?
It's It's a Thursday.
Oh, May 26th, not April 20. God.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's always like right around like the third or fourth Thursday in May.
Historic Preservation Month.
I would be able to go. I don't have anything on the calendar.
Okay.
Chair
Have you
Kite,
come-
are you available that day?
Yes.
I'd like you to present the award as chair of the.
Okay.
And I'll happily back off if Chair Kite's going to be there. Would like to give both awards. I was just responding to Alex. Sorry.
No, that's great. If everyone wants to come, you can all
Yeah, I wanna
present
go.
in unison.
Yeah, I don't certainly need to do that all myself. We can certainly figure out a way to collaborate around that. So that's good. I've got it on my calendar.
Me too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys for volunteering, and we can circle back on getting a list of who else is coming and get tickets sorted out and all that as we get a little closer. I did also want to mention before I forget that some of you probably never saw this, but and Shelley, for you, since you're new, and I don't know that we talked about this in our commissioner training, but the HRC award used to be called the Sonley Award. I don't know if you're familiar with Forrester Sonley, but the award was previously named for him. It was then, as we're learning about kind of our full history, was made apparent that he had a rather racist, or yes, racist is probably the best way to put it, legacy. And so the HRC voted to change the name of the award last year. And so there's like a little story of that written into the document of the HRC award. We used to engrave a silver cup every year with got like the whole list of names on it since it was first given in like 1988. That was retired when the award was renamed, and now we give a framed award. So I have been working with the special collections staff at Pack Library. They're going to take the Sonley Cup for us and create a display that explains the whole change of the name. So that will be permanently there for those to see and learn about. So I thought that was pretty cool that they were willing to do that for us. So
That's great.
Hey, one quick thing on the award. I realized literally an hour after I had submitted my nomination that really I should have nominated Dwayne Barton, Hood Huggers. And so my term ends the end of June. I won't be around next year. So I'm hoping to plant that seed that next year one of you remembers Dwayne Barton and Hood Huggers and nominates him for this award next year, please.
noted. There's a lot of really great people in the community that have yet to be honored. So we will definitely add Dwayne's name to the list. And hopefully, if you haven't had a chance to do the Hood Hugger tour, highly recommend. I've done it twice now, and we never make it out of Triangle Park, but that's just because Dwayne's such an amazing storyteller and has so much to share. So we did that one year as part of our HRC retreat, which trying to get around to planning that for you at some point. I was trying to do an actual like regional training this year in the fall, but that's going to happen in the spring of next year, where we'll partner with our all the different CLGs and other preservation commissions in the western part of North Carolina for that big regional training. So I'll try to get a retreat set up for you guys later in the year, because I feel like we could really use it, and we'll try to do something fun like the Hood Huggers tour or something else as part of that. So back to in-person we go.
Okay.
That's all the info I had to share.
Excellent. I got nothing else, folks. So we'll see you all bright and shiny in person next month.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Sounds good.
Motion
Avery, any callers in the queue?
Yeah, we actually have 500 now that now that all the items are over.
Hope you pack some snacks.
Yeah, you guys can leave. I'll handle that.
Technical difficulties. Whoops. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So motioned.
Okay.
All right, thanks, everybody.
See you next
Bye,
time.
everyone.
Nice to meet you all.
Good night.
Bye.